Alright, so this actually isn't really intended for anybody to actually watch, but I just wanted to do a quick trade review, mainly to think out loud and to kind of document some of the things that I learned from today's few trades, which, if you can see the P&L over here, didn't turn out great, but not terrible either. They ended up pretty even. I lost 64 cents. At one point I was up like 60 bucks, and at one point I was down like 100 bucks. And I took all three of my trades under PDT today, sadly, because the reason I say sadly is because now for the rest of the week all I can do is either paper trade or kind of watch the market, or I guess there's always the option to trade on a different platform. I've done that before. Give me just a minute here. I'm kind of still editing the scenes. It's been a long time since I've done any streaming of any kind, so I had to reset up a lot of this stuff. I'm looking for... Let's go... Where's my nice little, yeah, we'll go with this guy, open. Okay, and then I want to shrink him down. We're going to put him up here in the corner. Stonks. Stonks. Essentially I just want to take a look at these and think out loud a little bit. I was watching this pretty early. I started watching it right around this candle, which is why I started this line here, because I wanted to remind myself of that. Realistically, the relative volume was looking really good. In hindsight, like, you can say this with pretty much every stock though. In hindsight, I wish I would have got in right here. That's why I put these two arrows in this little box on there, so that I remember to say that, simply because that's a solid setup, right? So like, it had this little dip here, and then this one was green, but it didn't like make a new high over that pullback. And then this one, they're pretty much the same, but this one's barely made like a little bit of a new high, which a lot of times that's seen as a pretty good entry, the first candle to make a new high on the 1 minute chart. Here it is. Here's that same area on the 5 minute chart, and it was all green. So I wish I would have pulled the trigger and went in here, and my ideal exit would have been up here. Now what I actually did was I waited a bit, and I don't know why these are so far away. I got in right after this doji, this little like long-wicked little candle here. I bought in, and I'm sizing down position size because I had a couple losses and put me in paper trading for a while. Essentially, I got in here with just 80 shares. Just 80 shares, where normally a lot of times if I was trading something around this price, I'd jump in with like 1,000 shares, or the most I'd ever taken, I guess it was a little lower price point, it was like 2,500, but normally my go-to was like right at 1,000. So I jumped in with 80 shares because I'm trying to test some theories and prove myself profitable before I have another loss that kind of stings. So I had a couple in a row where I lost like 600 bucks. One was almost 700 bucks, and that had eaten up all of the gains I've had for like the last couple of months as far as my day trades go. Which, it's disappointing, but it is what it is. To some degree, I look at it as the cost of education, because you're gonna, paper trading can teach you quite a bit, but it's different when you're trading through money, at least to some degree. But my entry was right in here, and then I sold right about the bottom of this box. But realistically, I shouldn't have sold, I don't think, on a green candle. I should have waited for this pullback and then saw if that pullback got bought up. Because realistically, I think I sold like towards the middle or low end of this candle, and essentially I got less than $1 a share because my profit came out to a little over 60 bucks, and I had 80 shares. So in obviously in hindsight, it's a lot easier to say, but I've done this before. That's why I highlighted this, because I would like to remind myself to wait for a pullback, wait for this pullback, and then see if it gets bought up. If the next candle goes red too, then it's kind of an indicator of weakness, and you might want to, take it off the table and wait for like a steeper pullback and buy back in. But I too commonly sell out on a green candle, which I don't know. I guess can be kind of good in a way, but the thing is with the volume looking as good as it did, and then the selling volume here, if you see at the bottom of my crosshair down on the volume chart down here, the selling volume, it went red, but it was way less volume, like half the volume. So I should have waited and lined that volume up with the actual transaction of either buying or selling, and sold here, which would have been a ton more money. I think my fill price for my sale was like a little shy of 930, 920 something maybe. But I could have had, almost another 40-50 cents on that trade. So, if it's 50 cents times 80, that's an extra $40 on the sale, on this trade. And now, so that one's looking good, and I was feeling pretty comfortable. Then I just watched it for quite a while, quite some time, until the open actually. And then, this is when the things took a turn for the, to the downside. This big candle, it like dropped down here, and was idling in here for a little bit, and then it just launched off, and I got, I gave into the FOMO, the fear of missing out, and I said, whoa, look at that big green candle, boom, hit the buy button, get in for that next green candle, maybe this will even go into a halt. And then, right after I bought, my fill price was 54, I think, something like that. I think it was 64, that sounds better, because it was right at this bottom candle, or this bottom arrow. And then of course it dropped, and I was like, fuck, because then I gave back all my profits that I already got. So then I got nervous, and this is where the real tragedy happened. This is the real tragedy in this trade, is I saw the volume coming in, and the volume looking better, because obviously earlier, if we go back here to pre-market, that volume, that is a really high relative volume for the stock. And then when you get into the pre-market, look how much it shrinks down or when you get into the open market, 9:30, well 8:30 my time zone, you see all this pre-market volume that was already high shrink down in comparison to this, the actual live volume here. So I should have waited, but what I did is I got nervous and I bought here, sold here, gave back all my profit, and I was like minus 40-50 bucks. Well, if I would have held that trade and trusted it a little bit more, because obviously up here isn't real close to the lower VWAP, but it's close enough, I guess. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to rationalize the poor trade to some degree. But if I would have held it a little bit and saw if it was going to break down below VWAP, then I would have rode from here to probably somewhere in this region, or at least this red candle, as far as my profit goes, and then I'd be up a little more. Granted, it'd be a small trade, because it was the same share size, it was just 80 shares, so I'd have went from like 64 to like maybe 834, to use the roundish numbers. So then what I would have had 70 cents of profit on 80 shares. I would have been up another, what's that, quick math, like 30 bucks maybe, I don't know. So in that case, I would have been up, 90, 100 bucks on the trade. But what I did is, obviously I was down money, and then I got nervous and I said, ooh, I got to make this back. So then it starts to come up in here, and I watched this happen, and I bought again, but I'm not understanding these candles. I wish I would have done this a bit faster, or had this laid out better. So I don't remember exactly how this played out in here. I put an arrow here, obviously, for some reason, I would assume. but who knows? Maybe not. But then I'm like, okay, I need to make money back on this. So it has this pop. I missed the pop because I'd just gotten out, and I was like, oh, do I use my last day trade under PDT? What do I do? Should I get this money back? And then it kind of comes down in here, and I want to say this arrow or this line was indicative of my fill price. I think this was my fill price when I bought back in, like here, and then watched it go to here, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's popping back up. I'm getting a little bit of my loss back, and then I'm holding it. It drops back down. And this region is when I was down like almost $100 on the trade. Like I gave back my profit from earlier, and then another $100. So total, if you discount the profit that I had from the pre-market trade, I would have been down like $160. But total P&L was about 97 was about the highest I ever saw it. But anyways, I kept holding, sold up in here, right in here, and you can see I've made it back to pretty much break even, which it is what it is. At least I didn't lose money. I'm happy about that. But what's really disappointing is being under PDT, now I can't trade in this account again until next week, until next Monday. I will be able to trade. So that means the rest of the week I'm either paper trading in here in Thinkorswim. I have set up interactive brokers, but I haven't put any money in there. So maybe I should pull my money out of TD Ameritrade, put it in interactive brokers, and use a couple trades over there. I still need to set up interactive brokers better. My layout, I don't have level 2 because you have to pay for level 2 on interactive brokers, so that's a little like only having the small amount of money to play with that I have. Right now in Robinhood I have just about 2K, 2,500, and in here I put $750. So I'm trying to, before I step back in with putting like 3 to 5 grand or so in here, I want to kind of prove to myself that I can do things properly with a smaller position size. And today was rocky, to say the least, obviously. But my key takeaways, I guess, are, don't succumb to that FOMO. Let it pull back. Just be patient for your entry. Like I always say to myself, I make the lines and I make price levels and everything pre-market and on the historical charts, which I removed earlier so I could see my entries better. But I had, a lot of price level lines around these resistance points down in here. I guess that's kind of behind my camera. Oop, the stream's frozen. Let's give it a minute here. Well, the stream's definitely frozen / broken, so I don't know if anyone's even hearing this right now or able to hear it. But nonetheless, I learned a few lessons. I'm going to write a few things down in on my Google Docs that I have for my review of the daily trade. Probably take a couple screenshots of this and like this chart, and go from there. I'm definitely glad I'm out of this now because it's really dipping. It's below its 200-day running average, which is pretty damn low. Actually, I guess it came up a decent margin. I mean, it ran up to 1040 almost, and now it's down at 730. So it is what it is. But with the stream freezing, I'm going to